what does it mean to have a nation of women uninitiated into the power of the feminine, being empowered in what it is that they receive from communication from their body? And you've got a girl coming into her blood time and nobody talks to her. She gets the message that it doesn't matter, and it goes deep. That is real. And then, so does first sexual relations matter? If somebody trespasses, does it matter? Do all the other things matter? We have a whole generation just forging a new story for menopause. This whole generation of women, they are creating a new pathway for perimenopause and menopause. But our girls, our menarche girls, they can't really forge that way for themselves. I mean, they do. It's like we also need to create a new pathway for them.
Menarche, a girl's first period, shapes how we experience womanhood for the rest of our lives. And the lack of initiation most of us experience is itself an initiation. In this culture that is fractured from the rights and wisdom of our grandmothers, where so many of us met our first period with confusion and shame, how do we begin to heal this tender threshold for our daughters and for the younger version of ourselves? In a conversation brimming with practical suggestions, my herb teacher, Kami McBride, who has led countless women's circles, developed and taught a class for cycling women, and even written a book on menstruation, shares her decades of experience and insight. Together, we explore how to remember what was once celebrated and how to bring reverence and empowerment back to this profound beginning. As a mother of two daughters, this conversation is close to my heart. As a woman myself, as you probably are, as the child of a mother and the grandchild of two grandmothers, as you all are, this conversation carries a lot of meaning for me. And I had a lot of insights while listening to Kami talk, and I hope you do too. I want to keep exploring this. When I first met Kami in the 2000s, I took a year-long herbal apprenticeship course with her, and it was wonderful. I learned home medicine making and basic self-care and so much stuff that I was not raised with. And around that same time, my sister took a class, in-person class called Women's Wisdom, Honoring the Female Cycles of Life. And I had her tell me all about it, and she gave me her binder and all the materials Kami had given to the class, and I just loved reading it all and wished I could have been in class with them. So I feel like here I am now, 2 decades later, finally learning this straight from Kami herself. There are 2 Patreon offerings to go along with this conversation. One of them is open to the public. I think you do have to make a Patreon account in order to comment, because commenting on that post is how you will get entered to win a signed copy of Kami's book, 105 Ways to Celebrate Menstruation. Rosemary Gladstar says, in this wonderful book, herbalist Kami McBride introduces the reader to a unique way of looking at menstruation as a shape-shifting tool that allows us to rethink and reshape our personal worlds. My favorite part of the book is Kami's suggestions for how to celebrate menstruation, 105 ways to be exact. This would be the perfect book for a young woman just entering her moon time, for a woman who is experiencing difficulty during menstruation, or for any woman wishing to feel more empowered and creative during her monthly cycle. So just head over to patreon.com/medicine stories and leave a comment. Let us know how this conversation landed for you, what it evoked, what it brought up, memories from your own upbringing, your own menarche, or your daughters, or what you hope for your daughters or hope for the future. If you have stories of your mother or grandmothers, I would love to hear those too in that comment section. That would be wonderful. Let's see. Let's say that we're going to close comments. I usually do 3 weeks for these, so sometime in the 3rd week of November. Let's say November 24th. I like that day. November 24th or 25th, I'll announce 3 randomly chosen winners, and Kami will sign a book and send it out to you. Thank you so much. You make this podcast possible. Your $5 a month for people who are paying Patreon members keeps this an ad-free experience. And I would really love to continue with that. They make it so easy now to just like click a little button and have randomly chosen ads put into your podcast and you make money. And it's tempting, but I really appreciate so much that I've been able to put out over 100 episodes without ads and been able to continue doing the podcast because of the support on Patreon. And I really try to make it worth your while. So thank you for those of you who are there. And for those folks at the $5 a month level, I've put together a list of 8 menstruation related books that I love, as well as shared the online puberty course meant for mothers or caregivers to take alongside their daughters that my 9-year-old daughter and I really enjoyed taking together. Very affordable, very down to earth. And I just loved it. Of the 8 books that I'm sharing, 7 are nonfiction. One of them I'll tell you now is The Red Tent. You could have guessed that. We talk about it briefly in this interview, but the others kind of run the gamut from like biochemistry of the menstrual cycle. You know, one of these books I gave to my older daughter when she was a teenager, going through all of it, to a couple about evolutionary biology, which is one of my favorite things to study. And then there's one kind of like woo book in there, all about the dark moon and the dark goddess and how that relates to menstruation. And I loved that book in my 20s. I loved it so much. I found it at a little used bookstore in Eugene, Oregon. My upcoming retreat, November 2026 in Costa Rica, the Healing Waters Nature Immersion Retreat, is more than half filled. It filled more than halfway up in the first 5 days, I think it was. So there are still some spots. It probably will sell out at this point, which is very exciting for me, very relieving to know that people would like to have this experience with me and a group of women. So I'll put the link to that below, and I'll also record an outro that will go at the end of this episode where I talk more about exactly what that retreat looks like in case you haven't already tuned into it. So thank you so much for listening. Thank you so much to Kami, who continues to bless my life in so many ways 20 years later. And I'm so happy to bring this conversation to you, to your sisters, your friends, your mothers, your daughters, and the women and girls who you love. Kami, I'm so happy to talk to you today about a topic that is so near and dear to both of our hearts, and that you were the first person in my life who I saw talking about menstruation and menarche. And so thank you so much for being here.
I'm so grateful to be here. This is a under talked about topic that needs to be more part of our conversation as women.
Yes, and it has been, right? In the 20 years since you and I first met, there's a lot more talk now in the culture about periods, about women's bodies, about menarche. And I was just thinking about how it kind of follows the trend in herbalism, where when you and I first met 2 decades ago, we were all trying to like pull herbalism more into the mainstream and get people using herbs more in their daily life. And also it was important to you to educate women about how their bodies and their menstrual cycles work. You and I both remember that my sister took a course with you in person back during that time, and she gave me all her materials, and I loved reading about it. And so I'm noticing, right, that both of those things that were to the margins of the culture 2 decades ago are now much more talked about and much more mainstream.
Yes. Well, see, the thing is, if you get into herbs and you start wanting to take care of people in your household, at some point, somebody's going to have a girl. And at some point, she's going to start bleeding. And so you're like, what should I do about that? And so when I had my clinical practice, people be like, how do I get rid of my cramps? How do I get rid of my cramps? Let's try the Vitex. And then, I just had this whole awakening of like, no, the herbs are not here to undo a culture of shame, blame, hiding around what an incredible female cycle that nobody's talking about. And the herbs can't do it. So I really went on this journey to understand menstruation, first menstruation, the female cycles, and how we could support them holistically and not just come in, with our symptom suppression mindset of like, oh, here, take this for one of the over 100 symptoms that 70% of American women experience at some point during their menstruation. I spent years just digging into this. I held circles, listening to women, and I really came up with how we are initiated into our first menstruation, how we take that into our bleeding years, and it colors. It's a continuum. Menarche sets up menstruation. Menstruation sets up fertility. Fertility sets up pregnancy. It's all this template goes in place when we first start bleeding that was handed down to many of us in silence.
Well, what happened for you? Did anyone honor your menarche as an initiation?
I have listened to over 1,000 women tell the story of their first blood, their first bleeding. There's three categories that a little bit more than 90% of the people that tell their first blood story fall into. And those three things are, gosh, I don't remember. I don't remember. I don't remember what happened. Yeah, I don't know. I don't know. I'll ask my mom. The second thing, the most common response is, oh, I remember, but it was no big deal. It was like we were in the car. My mom gave me my pads, carry on. And then the third most common response was, oh, yeah, I remember. I hated it. I hate my period. I remember starting it. I couldn't go to the swim practice anymore. That's the template through which we start. And for me, I was in category number one. I actually did not remember. I don't remember the actual moment. I remember afterwards my mom giving me some pads, saying, put it under the cabinet. And then the second time I got my period, I remembered it. And I remembered that we were on a family vacation. We used to go with this one family to a cabin that my dad helped build. And my mom figured out I was on my period. She's like, okay, well, what you want to do is wrap your pads like really well, like 5 times, and then put them at the bottom of the garbage can so nobody can see it. And then I remember thinking, like, well, what about the garbage man? Like, is nobody supposed to see it? Why? How do I actually hide this? And I became like a master at hiding my blood. Like, nobody was going to ever know that I was bleeding ever. I don't remember. I had to talk to my mom about it. But I do remember one time being with a girlfriend, and we were out at a cafe with a boy that I kind of had a crush on. And she leaned over into me and she said, are you on your period? I was like, yeah. She goes, well, I can kind of smell it. And oh my God, I almost just like melted into a pool of mush. I like just left because I was so mortified that like he might actually be able to smell me, that it just put in a layer of shame that took me years to unwind.
Oh my gosh. I mean, I've heard a lot of like shame and mortifying, period related stories from girls' teenage years, but someone else smelling it. Do you think she actually was smelling it?
Yeah, probably. You can smell the blood if your nose is up and awake, and you can smell it. But see, this shame is the beginning of the disassociation from our body and from our cycles. Shame
Yeah.
creates constriction, it stops energy flow, and it just lays down this template to that I can suck it in, constrict it, hide it, hold it, and carry on. I have led so many women's blood circles, and the shame stories they just go on until the end of time.
Yeah, well, when you said, how do I hide this? That really hit me because I think that's how a lot of us felt. And I felt like, how do I hide this from my dad? I didn't want my dad to know.
No.
The irony of that was that he was great about it. Like me and my sister's whole teenage years, he'd be like, I'm going to the store. I noticed you're on your period. Do you need anything? It was no big deal at all to him. It was just a fact of life as it is.
Yeah, well, so see, then that's when, like I was saying, I became the master of hiding. And so you said you didn't want your dad to know. So many of us had our initiation with that talk in school, which that talk, that movie, that 2-hour movie is funded by the people that sell the products, deodorant and tampons to get you to buy into the shame and hiding. There's this whole concept of like protecting, like, oh, I'm going to protect myself. Those products are mostly toxic, and you're not protecting yourself. You're actually, many of them are harmful. But what you are doing is we have bought into the idea of protecting anybody else from knowing that we're bleeding. And so the products are not about protecting you. Many of them are very hostile to the female body, but they're about protecting others from knowing that there's a bleeding woman in the midst.
Mm-hmm. And I think that's really a part of what has changed from when you and I were growing up to at all costs hide it, move on with your life, act like it's not happening. Don't let it slow you down, girl. You know, all the commercials are like you playing beach volleyball on the first day of your period. And there's at least like on social media, I see a lot more honoring now and like making space for girls and women to rest, to, you know, crawl into their moon cave and have their time. And that feels like a big step forward for me.
Yeah, it is happening on social media. There's just a vast, wide gap of how do we actually prepare ourselves and prepare her for menarche? And what does that actually look like in a culture that really values productivity? I do see a lot more of that, like awareness of like, yeah, it's a cycle. It's a cycle. It's an ebb and flow. And that's one of the beautiful things for us to really learn and honor and understand about this is that the female body embodies the cycle of life. We're talking about the dark moon, the waxing moon, the full moon, the waning moon, the winter, spring, summer, fall, the sunrise, sunset, midday, midnight. Those are all can be correlated to menstruation, the building of the follicle being like spring equinox, ovulation like summer solstice, and the luteal phase where the body is preparing for the possibility of a pregnancy and then sloughs it off and then back to menstruation. That is the cycle of the waves. It's the plant cycle. It's the seasonal cycle. It's the life cycle, birth, childhood, adulthood, death. You know, we have that in us. And if we're taught to not look at it and honor it, then here are these incredible guidelines. They go unnoticed for the most part for many women. And we start trying to like kind of drug them up and plug them up to control them when really they are the greatest life teaching. Is such a powerful teaching to have within us. We embody all the cycles.
Yeah, as a mother of two daughters, one who has been bleeding for 8 years already,
Ah,
and one who will begin in the next few years. I think about this a lot and what are the most important things for me to convey to them while they're still living under my roof.
hey, that's the question, right?
Question. Well, one thing I keep thinking about is just like with the oldest, I tried, I tried to market in at least a very small, subtle, ceremonial way, and she was not interested.
No. Mm-mm.
I just put a tiny little kit together. Hers came before I thought it would. Even though she was the age I was, I still was like, when I got the call, you know, already? Like I wasn't ready. But, you know, I just put a few little items together. I was like, here, like this is meaningful, you know. I think my younger one might want more of a thing made about it. But I keep thinking, like, what do we lose when menarche isn't recognized as an initiation, isn't treated as a rite of passage by our mothers and by the culture?
Right. The first thing that we have to do as women is do our own work first around our lack or whatever kind of initiation we received, because even a lack of initiation is an initiation. What I've been working on for decades is having women gather in circle. Like, okay, you have a daughter, I have a daughter. Maybe it's just two of us, maybe it's five of us, and we get together and we tell our first blood story. Whether you're in those three or you're, the three that I named, or if you're there's whatever happened, and you do a go around and you each tell your story. Okay, so then from that, the curriculum goes on till the end of time because you all hear each other's stories and you're so just like, oh my God, it's just listening to those stories, you know what you're going to talk about during the next circle, and then the next circle, and then the next circle. And you commit to doing your own work in order to embody what your daughter needs to feel, not like what we need to say to her, because as we know, that age, they don't want to listen to us. And they need not only us, but they need midwives, they need aunties, they need mentors. They are not going to get it verbally from the mom. The mom is still like, is your homework done? All that stuff, the nurturing part. We need the aunties, we need a circle. And so one of the most powerful things that a woman can do, that a mother can do, is gather with, one or two or three or five other women that have daughters around the same age and meet, once a month for a while. and do that work of unwinding their first story, unwinding their mother's story, unwinding how they felt about their dad, knowing their sin, like all the stories, right? The shame that got hidden in there by your older brothers, all those stories are in there. And then we think that we can just tell our daughter what to do when we're walking around not really doing it ourselves. And so we tell our first story. The next level of story to be told, it just arises. And then eventually you come to this place of like, well, how do we do this differently? What do we want to do for our daughters? What needs to happen? I've had many circles. What they do is they start inviting the girls to the circle like once a quarter or something, and they just do like self-care. There's no period talk. There's just like foot baths or whatever the girls would be into. You want to make cookies, just like creative, hopefully more like self-nourishing, self-nourishment. So the girls can start really tuning into what they like, how they like to feel, what feels good. A girl going into puberty knowing what she likes and what feels good in her body is really powerful medicine. And so then what happens is, what I have many groups that's happened is then the mothers and the daughters kind of start to form a bond, and they develop kind of like an auntie situation. And then, maybe you can introduce a period talk. I've been invited to those groups to do a little period talks where we just do things like make menstrual pads, where we make a period kit like what you're talking about, where we make red velvet, like, just anything. Choose a red glass that we want to decoupage and drink out of, when we're bleeding. There's just all kinds of crafty things that you can do that are not like in their face, like a deer in the headlights. And so then it just evolves. And I have heard so many amazing first Menarche ceremonies come out of those circles, like just spontaneous. And also, you learn like what the girl wants. So, like, the mothers want a big old party with a red cake and blah, 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 blah. And some girls would just die. They would just sink into the ground forever if you did that to them. Right, Amber?
Yes.
And then some girls, every girl is different in how she wants to be initiated and have a ceremony. And we need to know that in advance. We need to have aunties around us. And that is the most powerful work that I have seen.
Oh man, I'm so
I mean,
struck.
it's just like the medicine circle, right? It's just like bringing in herbal medicine. It's like, oh my gosh, it's huge. It's so much to change that paradigm. It's harder to do it alone. And then when you've got a girl that's moving into teenage years, they're going to become a teenager and not going to want to hear from you. This work on the front end. And so if somebody's got a girl that's just starting to bleed and hasn't done this work, you can still do this work. You can still get together with someone else and go, let's talk about our first blood. Let's talk about how we want to do it differently for our daughters. We can do that.
I feel like it's like a hinge generation kind of right now, with most of the moms are going to have had shameful first blood experiences. I don't know,
Uh-huh.
maybe not most, but maybe certainly not celebrated or maybe like welcomed gently and joyfully by their mother, their family, their culture. But we want to do it differently for our girls. So it just seems like a hinge generation when it comes to this topic. And it really, I imagine and I hope that like the wheels are really turning in the minds of the women listening, because that's what's happening for me listening to you. And I've been in an ongoing inquiry for the last decade or more of like, how did I become so disembodied as a child growing up, a process that's an ongoing healing in my adult life. And I'm realizing like this was part of it. I didn't know, like you said, going into puberty, what felt good in my body. I didn't know how to nourish myself at all with food. I had no self-care. That wasn't a phrase back then, okay, youngsters? No self-care skills or just idea of touching my own body, like herbal body oiling. When I watch my 9-year-old daughter do it, I'm like, this is such a gift that she is just touching herself and aware of what feels good and where to rub that oil in more and how to move her body with it. If I could have just had that, that could have made such a big difference. But if I could have landed more softly into my bleeding life, right? Like modern women will bleed about 400 times. It's like epic proportions of how this changes your life. Yeah, like you said, here's your pads. Best of luck to you.
So it's not like, oh, we want our daughters to have a better life. It's like this demographic, this teenage demographic, they are some of the highest risk demographics. Okay. So in the next year, 750,000 teenage girls are going to become pregnant. 82% are going to be unwanted pregnancies. Okay. The majority of, women have issues, girls have issues with food are between 12 and 20 years old. One third of all rapes happen before 20. It's the highest demographic of sexually transmitted diseases. This isn't just like, oh, we really want less shame for our daughters. When we set up a template of I don't care, I don't know, I don't remember, I don't want anybody else to know, and whatever, that template, that is our body. And it sets us up for medical experimentation, all kinds of risk. I just want to put that on the table. At 14, there is so much happening. And if we don't provide a rites of passage or an initiation that's appropriate, they're going to create their own. Okay. And so when you have a 14-year-old creating her, they don't realize it, but they want to be seen. Even if they don't want to be seen, they want to be seen, or they want to be nurtured or mentored or talked to. I mean, girls can go through this period without even really being talked to because there is so much happening. Their hormones are changing, their feelings are changing, their social positioning has changed. When you overnight go from being a carefree girl to being somebody that has to carry tampons and mortified that somebody might see that, that changes your social positioning. How do you handle that? Right? So much change. And it's not only that it's puberty that you can now, reproduce. This is when the Shakti starts coming in. This is when the fire starts awakening of the relationship between you in this lifetime and your soul. This is when your soul starts awakening and going, oh, I like this. I want that. I want that. And in order for you to start being able to manifest what you're going to do in this lifetime, it needs a midwife, right? It's as much as giving birth needs a midwife. This amount of change needs someone there to catch you, to hold you, to, again, help you know what feels good in your body, to talk to you about it. And we used to learn from an older sister, right? Somebody had an older sister and she knew what to do, or she had had sex already, or you'd go into the clinic and there'd be a magazine, but now it's like TikTok, and it's like the amount of sales, what they do is they try to reach your most weakest spot or the most vulnerable spot to try to sell you something. And shame around your body parts is a really big sales point. So we come back to, okay, how can we start to create this container so that they know what feels good in their body, so that we can talk to them, so that we can just start gently inserting different concepts of the cycles of life, and that menstruation is actually a sign of good health. Without menstruation, there would be no human life. Menstruation is where we build up the tissue to hold a baby and then be able to, deliver milk to the world and then let it go. It's the tissue that could possibly have held a baby. It's the food of life. When you lose your period, you have a problem. There's a big health problem going on. So if we can start to see our menstruation as a sign of health, the next thing we do is we find really creative ways to help the girls track their blood. There's a lot of calendars out there now. You can make something, you can make it fun, but find a way that's, again, this isn't about superimposing our idea or my idea about what my daughter needs. It's like, who is my daughter? How is she manifesting? How is she coming in? And what would work for her to help her start to track her blood? Because tracking your blood is one of the best ways to, so that when something changes, guess what? You're the first to know. You don't have to outsource it. We outsource our reproductive care to other people. And we can start to be the curator and the steward of our womb and what happens there.
Yeah, I've been tracking since I think probably the year I met you, the year that I got into natural healing. But then I only in the last 3 years really got serious about doing my basal body temperatures in the morning. And that's a whole different level. And it, like, you don't know what you don't know until you start that kind of practice. And then you start to get to know your body and get to see patterns and maybe even like figure out what's going on before a real symptom manifests. just through cycle tracking, it's such a gift. But I want to say that this is such a reframe for me from rites of passage, specifically the menarche rite of passage, being like from reclaiming those rites of passage as being sort of a sweet, nourishing, helpful thing to do, to like the consequences of not doing it can be quite dire. The consequences of girls going into their teenage years disembodied and full of shame being dire.
When everybody's at the table talking about the weather and the driver's license, and you've got a girl coming into her blood time and nobody talks to her, she gets the message that it doesn't matter. And it goes deep. That is real. And then so does first sexual relations matter? If somebody trespasses, does it matter? Do all the other things matter? 5 out of 10 girls say that their first sexual interaction was involuntary. It was without consent or against their will. That's 5 out of 10. And we know that a lot of it isn't reported. So we know it's more than that. And so empowering someone, a girl, into these cycles, into that they matter, this matters, this is real, caring for them, acknowledging them, honoring them in their way, right? Because then when they go off to college, there's the statistics around the targeting. Maybe they don't go to college, but they get that age where they, leave the house. And I know you know what that is. We are both going through that right now. But they are a target. They are a marketing target because they're kind of out on their own for the first time. They're separated from their families. They're experimenting, and they're an easier target population for all the campaigns. All the shaming campaigns about what they should do with their body. This initiation into being body literate, emotionally body literate, is something that they take with them. It's all a continuum. In the 50s, 40s, they didn't talk about it at all. And so then you had women outsourcing their breast milk, like, oh, no, we don't need to breastfeed. And a whole 2 generations of women in the United States that were, had their babies in the hospitals, allowed themselves to be given a shot to dry up their breast milk. And so we know that the repercussions that that's had on generations now, the lack of biome, just all the things. But that's what happens. Those are the kind of things that we become susceptible to when we aren't initiated. One of the things that I talk about a lot is cultivating the menstrual treasures. So there's all the horrific statistics that, potential, but what does it mean to have a nation of women uninitiated into the power of the feminine, being empowered in what it is that they receive from communication from their body? To have embodied women and not women that aren't paying attention. One of the main things that happens during menstruation is that there is a heightened sense of awareness and sensitivity. That is across the board. I haven't talked to one woman that says, oh, I feel more sensitive. I feel more, heightened, feel pain more. Because see, when you bleed, you have to open up. You got to let go of all that tissue. You got to let go of the corpus luteum. You got to let go of, all the blood, all the energy that's built up in your first and second chakra. That's why it's so intense, because it's pushing on all the emotions in the first and second chakra. And so you've got to open up, and it's like, oh, all your emotions get triggered, and you have to let that go. In order to let that go, it's kind of like a little mini having a baby. You've got to open up to have that child. Well, this is a much smaller scale, but it's a similar vibration. You've got to open up, and that opening up is like, we're all on the 11th floor doing all our business. Like it's summer solstice, like the flowers are blooming all year. We in our body, we're like, we want to, flowers don't bloom all year round. It's not summer solstice all year. You got to go down into winter. The energy's got to go down to the roots. We embody that cycle every month. And if we try to stay on the 11th floor doing everything, then we don't go down into that space. And then we're at war. We're in conflict with the cycle, with the season. And so then it just becomes painful. And believe me, they've got a cocktail for it. But when you do find even just an hour to let yourself go down and go down into those first and second chakras and open up and relax, so much of the PMS, the cramps, muscles cramp when they're tight. It's like when you relax and warm and body oil, then everything can open up and you have an easier. I'm not saying people don't have really severe PMS that needs other kind of support. I'm saying in general. But you develop the space for that sensitivity, for that awareness, that body wisdom, that only that emotion. You go into grief, you go into anger, you go into all of those spaces when you allow time for that winter, that dark moon, that cycle of life. It's in you, and if we can go into that, then it's what I call the menstrual treasures, and it's really the pathway to embodied female energy. Being sensitive means that you are aware and open to what life needs now. If we can cultivate that sensitivity is a good thing, a powerful thing, I don't know, I think everything's going to change. Have you ever been, oh, you're being too sensitive? Let me tell me how many times you've heard that, Amber.
I was going to say being sensitive means you're sensing. Literally just means that you're tuned into what your senses are telling you. And there's this idea in the culture that like the hormones at your period are making you like giving you anger or grief or any emotion where you don't have it, but that's not what's happening. They're just able to surface when the veil is that thin. They were already there. You were suppressing them as you went throughout your month, and now they're surfacing.
Right. And how many times are we told, oh, you're being too sensitive?
Oh yeah.
Oh, yeah.
It's just been a way to dismiss the feminine.
Right. And so if we can early on go, oh yeah, thank you very much. Sensitivity is what's going to save the world or whatever. Yeah, sensitivity is a good thing instead of being, our sensitivity being dismissed. Even now I experience that with people where they just go, oh, and I'm just like, oh man, you have no idea what's coming through me right now. Yeah, so there's so many layers to it, right?
Yeah, yeah. You're talking about like what happens biochemically and energetically at menstruation, but what is happening biochemically and energetically at menarche that we often overlook? This first blood, this initiation when this adolescent's brain is nowhere near fully developed, and yet their body is coming into womanhood.
Yeah. Well, it's the beginning. It's like when a plant first comes out of the ground, it's there, but it's not ready to go to flower or seed yet, but you still have to care for it. All the nutrition that got them there is there, but they've now the estrogen, and estrogen is just one hormone. There's so many, that we don't even know what's in breast milk. It's like there's so many hormones that we don't know, but we're like, oh, estrogen. So yeah, the estrogen, progesterone, that's all real, but there's so much more. And so all of that is starting to awaken. And they're not there yet. They're not throwing out the big leaves that are maybe pulling in the solar influence as much yet. It's like when you have a baby, the babies, what a baby does. They're not a baby at Menarche, but they're a baby in this process of awakening. Again, I think I've said it already. I really believe that this phase needs a midwife more than the mom. There's so much, it's like, again, going back to all the different cycles of life, birth, menarche, menopause, all these phases when they begin, it's like the cards get scrambled. It's like you throw down the cards and you're like, okay, this is what's happening now. And it really is very complex. And what's amazing, oh my gosh, I don't know how many women I've mentored into tracking their cycle, but there was one point where I was just so like, okay, there's not one of these cycles that is the same. Not one. You look at 100 charts, 100 women, 100, none of them are the same. We are really unique beings. We come in with everything that we come in with. And it shows up in our cycle being different, even though there's a template and there's rhythms and cycles. The actual day-to-day experience is different for every woman. And so that's what we need to understand is that we actually don't know. I have some girls that have been in the women's circles where, oh my gosh, you should have seen the parties they threw. They had everybody wear red. They had, again, red cake, and everybody was invited. I was invited. And it was just period party, first period party. And then there's every layer in between where a mom just takes her daughter out to lunch and gives her an heirloom ring from her grandmother. It is the time for heirlooms. It is a time for as important as any other time in her life. Everybody goes crazy over weddings, giving everything. But menarche is a time for that. of really acknowledging and putting a mark in time so that she can feel held and like, oh, okay, I'm not doing this alone. And so that she can go through her unique changes, cared for, and knowing that she has someone she can ask questions. I have a niece. I finally was just like, all right, come on, let's go for a walk. And I gave her a ring and talked to her. Nobody had talked to her. Her parents weren't talking to her. Nobody was talking to her. And all of a sudden, she just started crying. And she's like, oh my God, I have so many questions. And she just started asking me one question after another. She just like rapid fire. What about this? What about that? What about this? And I just answered all her questions and she just cried. And that was her ceremony, but it's what she needed.
That's amazing. That's so sweet. I love that story. I feel lucky that my 9-year-old is really interested in all of it and loves talking about it and asks so many questions.
Mm, she
She's like the
does.
yeah, she's like the opposite of most girls where she cannot wait for puberty.
Oh, Amber. Yeah, that's, from all the work that you've done and also who she is and the constellation. That's beautiful.
It,
I'm so happy for her.
it's fun because it's so different from her sister, but I really think it stems from having an older sister who she admires so much and wants to
Mm.
be like. And she's like, oh, when I get to puberty, then I'll get to be as cool as her, you know?
Yeah, there's a lot of
See,
expectation there, like, oh,
that's
all of a sudden you're this. Well, no, not all of a sudden you're this. Sometimes girls start bleeding and then they don't bleed for 3 months,
mhm.
It's not just like a cut and dry thing.
Right. Right. Yeah, it can be start and go for many years and not as rhythmic as hopefully it becomes in time. Gosh, this is just making me realize that I don't know if it's most girls. In a healthy society, I think it would be most girls, but certainly when I was younger, I was excited to become a woman as well. I was not excited about puberty because all the messaging I'd gotten was that it was awful. And then that's how I felt when I got my period, like this terrible thing that's just happened to me. But I did look forward to becoming a woman. I looked forward to becoming a mother. I couldn't wait to experience pregnancy and even childbirth, like from a young age. And I don't know, I just wish that we could cultivate that longing in all girls and then like gently guide them through this menarche initiation with the narrative that this is that. This is the beginning of that. This is you becoming that. This is how we're easing you into the rest of your life as a woman with a body completely anchored in this cycle that like this cycle, I don't want to say it dominates your life, but it has a huge effect on your life for, again, up to 400 bleeds for modern women. Decades, decades, and decades, and decades of your life, you're going to be a bleeding woman. How are we setting that up?
Yeah. And so that's the work. It's like, we have to just really dig into the fear, unconsciousness, shame, underdeveloped feminine principle and explore that in our own lives. And then how do we just start to embody that? And how do we carry that? And how do we nurture concepts of nourishment, right? These things they're not taught in school, right? The value of the feminine, having really powerful female role models, value of nourishment, value of introspection and dreams. That's where it all comes down. And then there's so many great exercises just little crafty different things for a relationship between the female cycles and nature cycles. If we can embed, because it's the story, the stories drive our subconscious. And if we can somehow, really embed that story of the relationship between female cycles and nature cycles, then that just becomes. Imagine if we had a book, a little child's book that talked about the first moon and the magic of the moon and the cycles of the moon and how the menstrual cycle is aligned with the cycles of the moon, and then the dreaming of the moon and how it's healthy. And it's all a matter of the story that's told, right? It's what is the story? And if there's no story being told, well, believe me, Snapchat and TikTok and all that will pick it up, and there is a story being told. And so it's a matter of what story do we want to be told? Who's going to tell it? How are we going to hold them while we tell it?
Thank you so much for saying that. That has definitely been missing for me with my youngest. She's got like the physiology down, but I haven't like put it into a story form or these metaphors that make sense and that we actually feel in our body as we go throughout the menstrual cycle. I think that will be really helpful.
Yeah, so you can just say, well, how many ways is the female cycle like? Where are those cycles in the earth? You look at the cycle of a wave. I think I've talked about mentioned them, the cycle of the wave, the cycle of life, the diurnal cycle, the lunar cycle, the plants that come up as little buds, that's the follicular phase, and they bloom, and that's the summer solstice ovulation phase. And because it's not just bleeding, we also ovulate. And then it's the luteal phase, and that's when the pumpkins get fat and our uterus gets all full and like a pumpkin, really. And then it wanes, and then we have a dark moon, and story is what guides us. It's what guides our life. This is embodiment. This is what we learn as herbalists, right? We learn about the cycles of life as an herb, and that's one of the beauties of herbalism, is it really initiates us into the cycles of the earth and the plants. And it's in our bodies. So the template is there. There's so many great meditations and breath works, and all that stuff is good. I've done it all. Transformational breath work. 10 years I was just a disciple of everything that was possible in the 80s and 90s. But then it was like, oh my gosh, all I have to do is like take a break during menstruation, and there it is. I don't have to do an hour of breathing. It's all right there. If it's just pain, then we have to find some way to work with the pain to get in.
Yeah, it's like as women, we're so blessed to have the built-in rite of passage of menarche and of childbirth. Whereas, I talked about this recently on the podcast, I think with Susie, men don't have biologically based, body-based rites of passages. They have to create, in traditional cultures, big rites of passage ceremonies and like do really dangerous things to put themselves into that same liminal space as menstruation gives us naturally, and childbirth too. So we women are lucky to have in our bodies these built-in rites of passage. Whether or not the outer culture is holding that in the right way is another story. But we're also lucky that menstruation is, like you said, it's this, like, you don't need to do mushrooms. just tune in on the first day of your period and see what comes through. Like, a lot of inner knowing can surface at that time.
Oh yeah, you don't have to be taken to the top of the mountain and almost die.
Yeah.
Which is what so many of the rites of passages are about for the men. They've got to come face to face with death, and then their life's purpose is revealed. Our life's purpose can be revealed every month in the womb phase, in the womb, what I call the womb mind. Yeah, in the 80s, I got training in rites of passage, and traditional kind of indigenous rites of passage. And I did a 5-day starve on the mountain thing, where you go up there and you starve and you don't eat and you have a vision. Well, my vision was very interesting because my body, some representation of my body went right in front of me. It was like day 3. I'm really hungry, and I started my period, so I'm starving. Right? I'm like, why am I up here starving? This is ridiculous. But anyway, it comes out in front of me and it said, what are you doing? This is women don't do this. You don't need to do this. You've already get down off of the mountain, get something to eat and support your body before you make yourself sick.
Wow. So
that came to me in a vision.
Yeah. Did you bail on the experience then?
No, I didn't bail on the experience. I was young. It was too held in place. There were so many people involved, and I would have been shamed. Yeah, I'm pretty sure. But I got that transmission, when I started my period. So that's a very embodied experience for me.
Wow. Yep. So, you talk about pain and like women being in pain at this time. So how do herbs, nutrition, mineral support play a role in like easing the physical and emotional things that we go through during our bleeding time, but specifically at menarche?
Well, I have a really cute book. It's called 105 Ways to Celebrate Menstruation that I wrote 20 years ago. That's available on Amazon.
Yeah.
Oh my gosh, I wrote this forever ago. And there in chapter 3 is called Celebrating with the Gifts of the Earth. And there's all kinds of formulas in there, like your iron tonic, your calming moon tea, your lunar tea, herbal baths, herbal scrubs. We need good nutrition. Your body is now, all these hormones are changing and awakening. We need our minerals. We need our deep nutrition. All the things that we have been studying for years, they're right there. In some cultures I've read, the girls that are beginning to bleed and the women that are wanting to get pregnant are the ones that get the first butter from the cows coming off the mountain that has the most nutrition. And they're the ones that get the eggs from the fish when the fish are brought in. They get the super nutritious food because they know their body is about ready to go through all of this. And then, if there is pain, it's like, if you can at all surrender to it, there's so many things. It's like, first of all, we need warmth. We need warmth on it. That's where like your packs, your oil packs that you talk about so much. And your oils, you have so many beautiful oils for this time of month. You really bring your allies in to support you, and you go for warmth and opening, and you find those constricted places, because constriction, dryness, and cold equal pain. So when I see these young girls walking around with shirts that aren't covering up their bellies, or it's cold outside and their ankles are showing, you have so many womb points on your ankles. It's like, cover your ankles, cover your belly, wear extra wool around your belly. Keep the, what do they say? A cold womb means cold menstruation, hard menstruation. Cold womb means PMS. So keep it warm. All the things that we've been, your warming teas, your baths, your oiling, your foot rubs. Foot rubs are incredible because you do have so many womb points on your feet and liver points. To just do warm oil rubs on your feet, it's so profound. If there's this alternate body of wisdom flowing through your household for holistic health and herbal wisdom and earth wisdom, the hearth wisdom, you're hopefully tuning into some of that. And you realize the first time you have the experience of doing a warm foot bath and a mugwort pack, warm mugwort oil pack on your low back, you're like, oh, okay, I get it. Yeah, I really can help myself.
Yeah.
And that's not all, but it's like we could start.
Yep. Yeah. I go to violet leaf castor oil packs for cramp. I don't get cramps anymore, but I sure did as a teenager. And I recommend that to people all the time. Any sort of oil on the womb area, lower back, upper thighs, feet, like you said. But then if you're bringing castor oil into it to penetrate even deeper into those soft tissues of the womb, of the belly, and then the heating pad on top of that, it's like heavenly. I love ginger tea, just the warming and like life bringing, blood bringing aspects of ginger into the uterus feels so good. Baths, water. If it's summertime here, swimming in the river, even if I'm like, I don't have the energy to hike down to the river on this first, second day of my period. Once I'm in the water, it's like everything just melts away and feels so good. With Epsom salts, with any kind of mineral addition to the bath. And then, yeah, mineral rich herbal infusions and foods and chocolate 100% for me.
Yeah, and when you're at the river and there's a hot, black, smooth rock,
Yeah.
you take that rock and you put it on your belly, and I can't even tell you where you can be transported to.
Yes.
It's the best drug.
Yes. I got to take you to my favorite big black baking in the sun rock at the river this summer.
Oh, yeah. And all of that is so true. And see, this is what really got me on this path in my clinical practice, is because sometimes all of those things are in place, but when we reject a body function as negative, dirty, insignificant, that energetic and psychological separation from that part of the body, those patterns, they play a role. They're not the only reason, but they play a role in so much of the different symptoms and categorized as PMS. Just having it even acknowledged, I had a student one time, her dad was a doctor that was trained in the 50s, and they didn't have PMS. They had PMT, premenstrual tension, that I think was put in the medical books like around the 30s. And so PMS didn't exist for him. And he had like these 15 symptoms, and women were coming with so many more symptoms. And he told his daughter, this doesn't exist. This is a bunch of, what, and just get it together, and just completely invalidated so many women about their experience, right? Because it just didn't exist. And so first we have to acknowledge that it exists, look for those allies, look for the underlying stories that we were given, whether they were spoken or unspoken. My mom, my grandmother, it was all unspoken. I remember I interviewed my great aunt one time, and her story, she started bleeding in like 1940, I think. No, 25, 30, yeah, 1935, 19. And I said, what? She's like, oh, we were at a family dinner and I started bleeding and I went home and went to bed and I thought I was dying. And her mom came home later and said, what's going on? She's like, I'm dying. She
Mm-hmm.
thought she was dying. She really thought she was dying. And her mom looked and she's like, oh, you just started your courses. Okay. But, here she was, 15. She had never even heard of it. She had never even heard of this possible event. Right. So that is still, it's like, you want to call it trauma, whatever you want to call it, it's still in us. So it's a very big picture.
Yeah, I realized recently that I don't know my mom's first blood story,
Oh, yeah.
and I'll never know it.
That's sad. I'm
Yeah,
sorry. I
yeah,
know.
yeah, the worst. And she didn't share it with me when I got
No, of
mine because
course
they
not.
didn't, yeah, do that back then. And
No.
yeah, she was already gone when my oldest got hers, or else I'm sure we would have talked about it at that time.
Yeah.
And I have no idea about either of my grandmothers, but I know my paternal grandmother had a hysterectomy young, and I so wonder about that now. Was that really necessary?
Uh-huh.
What's going on? Anyway, I love this idea, and I highly encourage anyone listening, if you still have female elders in your lineage,
Yes.
definitely ask them these questions.
Oh, yeah.
And menopause too. I vaguely remember when my mom went through menopause, but now that it's on the horizon for me, I'm like, God, I wish I could ask her more.
Yeah. Well, it's a continuum. It's all these cycles are a continuum. They're not separate. And pretty much for the most part, for many women, not all women, but it's a crash course. Like, oh, I'm pregnant now. I got to learn about that. Oh, oh, here comes menopause. What's my unique flavor of that? I like to think of like, oh, we're making headway, but it's such an impoverished cycle that we need a loom, we need thread, we need to be taught how to weave to create this fabric of our lives. And it's kind of like with the young girls, we go, oh, here's some wood, build your own loom, spin your own thread, and
Mm.
teach yourself how to weave. That's what it feels like to me for a lot. Then you spend the first part of your life untangling things, and then you finally figure it out, and then it's like, okay, what's next?
Yep. Yeah, I feel like perimenopause has knocked my generation on our asses because, for one thing, we are metabolically less healthy than any previous generation. So we are having a harder time. But for another one, no one ever talked about it. We hear about menopause, but menopause is defined as it's been 1 year since you last bled. Perimenopause is this decade or so when your hormones are freaking the F out and you have no idea what's going on or who you've become. And no one talked about it until we hit our 40s within the last decade or so. And now everyone's talking about it, who's my age at least, because we're all really experiencing it. But there was no map laid out before us.
Mm-hmm. Let's just go back to PMS. The medical research around PMS is inconclusive. Inconclusive. There's no decisive medical etiology for these 100 symptoms. And so you just transpose that onto everything else. Like, oh, here, you got some skin stuff, take a birth control pill. You're in menopause, here, take HRT. There's a cocktail for every stage, but the medical etiology is inconclusive. And so that's not where we're going to get most of what we need. And so it's wonderful. We have a whole generation just forging a new story for menopause. This whole generation of women, they are creating a new pathway for perimenopause and menopause. But our girls, our Menarche girls, they can't really forge that way for themselves. I mean, they do. It's like we also need to create a new pathway for them. So along with the perimenopause and menopause, I do see that it's our responsibility to create a new way for Menarche. It's not up to those girls to like have to do that. I mean, and they will, and they're powerful, and I'm not dismissing their power and what they're capable of, and who knows,
No,
but
it needs to
they
be,
need us.
yeah, it needs to be culturally held, or at least within the community.
Yeah. Yeah. So, it's just like imagine a world where rejuvenation and healing and spiritual connection are the experiences associated with menstruation, because that's what's possible.
Hmm. I'm remembering when the red tent came out. Was that like the 90s, the late 90s?
Yeah, something like that.
And just every woman loved it. So
Yeah.
it pulled at something so deep within us that we're missing.
Mhm.
Let's etymologically define menarche and menopause since they're related words.
Okay. Oh, you mean, okay, so menarche, men, moon, month, those are the same root words as moon and month. We're like, okay, yeah. And then arche is beginning. So it's the beginning of your moon, the beginning of your monthly, cyclical relationship to your body. It's the beginning, right? And then pause, the pause on that.
Yeah. I think I've told you how we're going to start offering herbal bundles for rites of passage soon.
Oh, thank you.
Yeah,
Thank you.
I'm so excited about it.
Oh, I can't wait for that.
Me too. And I can't believe it took me this long to put together that we all the medicines we make are like for these passages and for women throughout the life
Uh-huh.
cycle. And at the very least, this is what I come back to because so many of us want to mark these rites of passage for ourselves, for our daughters, for our mothers, for our elders who are transitioning. But it feels overwhelming. Like, what am I supposed to do? Like, get a caftan and a fancy candle and like memorize incantations. And, most of us are not coming from a place of ritual knowledge, ceremonial know how. And it feels overwhelming. It feels like we're kind of faking it.
Uh-huh.
And so at the very least, like here's an herbal essence to drop into your mouth to mark this rite of passage. Here's an oil that's gonna calm your nerves, relax your muscles, and transport you through its scent and through the nervous system relaxation that happens. I'm thrilled. I can't wait till the website launches, should be end of November. And I'm really grateful to you for being one of the first lights on my path in this way. The very first for me was Women's Bodies, Women's Wisdom by Dr. Christiane Northrup. But then finding you and finding your approach to it, which no one else in my knowledge was talking about at the time. I just see this continuous thread, from then till this epiphany I had about offering these bundles to women.
Oh, that is so beautiful. We need that so much. We need that support. And there's not to have the medicines support us doing that. It's, there's already so much to do. I'm so grateful for this, this trajectory. And, timing is everything. And I think the time is right now. The time is right, Amber. Really, people need this. It's like each month we embody the wheel of life, right? We embody the wheel of life. We're dialed into this ever changing template of life. Our body teaches us about change, so many things. And if you can have something like a kit or an oil or just whatever, these medicine supports to help you drop in, it changes everything. You don't project your emotions onto others as much because it's, at the beginning of my blood is like, first I would just cry, ah, right? Get it all out. Then I could get down into like, oh, well, what's actually going on right now? What's happening? Where am I headed? It's the place that brings you back to, it's one of the places that brings you back to true north. And we are of the plants, and those aromatics and those oils and in those plants, they are our allies to taking us there.
Hmm. If you could whisper one message to a young girl approaching her first bleed, what would it be?
Oh, it depends on the girl. One of the things we do in the women in the menstrual work that I teach is have people, women, they do meditation and then they talk to their younger self. They come in with everything that they know and they talk to their first bleed, their girl during their first bleed. And I just have like a database in my body of those answers. And one of the main ones, or a very common theme that women would say to their younger self is, don't give it away. Don't give it away. Don't give it away because you think you should, or because people are telling you, hold on to it, hold on to yourself. And so you can't really just quite come out and say that to a young girl. I don't know. I think kind of maybe like a little bit, if you could get into a little bit of play and magic, you could say, what do you want to call it? What do you want to name it? What do you want to call this thing that you're going to be doing? In a woman's life, if we bleed from 12 to 52, you spend about 5 years bleeding. Do you want to call it the curse or the rag? Or do you want to call it your magic time or your, like what would you like to name it? Name your cycle and let her think about that.
What did you call it?
I ended up calling it my moon time. That was kind of acceptable at the time. But it is. It's the moon time, we grow like the moon. We embody the phases of the moon. I'd also call it my womb time, moon time, womb time.
Kami, I still have that sticker that you used to make.
Oh.
The red oval that said in white, I love my moon time.
Oh, yeah. We need more of those bumper stickers.
I like moon time too. I don't like on my moon. I've never used that. A lot of women I know use it, but it doesn't make sense to me. I don't know. It just doesn't hit me the way it hits them. I call it my period.
Yeah. Yep.
I will say I recently came across like an online course about all this stuff. The language was so mystical and hit me as being like really over spiritualized. Ancient priestess, unlock the secrets, enter the mystery. And it's like, I get it. I get what they're going for in their marketing and why it resonates with so many women, because our bodies are, it's like mind blowing what they're capable of, what women's bodies do and how they work is really beautiful and powerful. I think it's like that power that we recognize, but isn't acknowledged. Like you were saying at the first blood, you like this is big, like I'm bleeding out of my body right now and I have big feelings around it and like my perception is heightened and everyone's like moving on anyway. So like the power, and it feels mysterious. People like focusing on like the mystical or mysterious aspect of it, but it's only mysterious if you don't understand like the basic biology of the female body. And once you do understand that, it's incredibly empowering, and it doesn't take away from like the awesome power of it.
You know where I start? Because, oh my gosh, when I used to sell my book, 105 Ways, I had this woman come up to me and say, how dare you put those two words in the same sentence?
Which words?
Celebrate and menstruation.
Uh-huh.
She was so mad at me. And so you start talking about something mystical with her, she'll just like throw something at you. So where I start is, how do you feel about the smell of your menstrual blood? How do you feel about seeing it? How do you feel when you touch it? What, the blood itself, what does it bring up for you? Because it's not mystical if it's kind of a little bit disgusting to you.
Uh-huh.
So we start with, how does it feel? How does it smell? How do you actually feel about the blood itself?
Yeah.
And we start there.
Yeah.
And then that's all the shame and all the stories that, like I said, there's a lot of go arounds to be had to unpack all that, to get to the deeper kind of spiritual awakenings that can happen. We've got to get through the physicality.
Right. I mean, it's about blood and it can be a lot of blood, even if it's not, even if you're not like flooding or bleeding more than is average, it's still like, wow.
Yeah. And you have to manage it. You got to manage it.
Yep.
It gets on your clothes, it gets on your sheets. It's like, and how do you manage it? How do you feel about someone seeing your bloody underwear? How, all of those things. Because the thing about this blood that's so amazing is that you don't have to get cut and nobody dies when this blood, but most of the blood that we see every 3 seconds, if you turn on the TV, I was just stayed in a hotel recently, and I like, how they have like 175 channels. And I was like flipping through the channels for like a half an hour going, oh my God. And within that half an hour, I saw like so much blood. I couldn't believe it. People getting shot, people getting all this stuff. And nobody even bats an eye at that blood, the blood of death.
Right.
But the blood of life, oh my gosh, if you see a woman with blood on her skirt walking down the street, everybody's like mortified, you know?
Yeah.
So we've got to what's up with that?
Or how, and I don't know if this is the case anymore because yeah, I haven't owned a television in over 20 years, but when I was growing up, the commercials would show a like pretty light blue fluid, right, being poured onto the menstrual pads to show you how absorbent they are. I have seen like social media ad campaigns for modern period products that look like real blood, and I think that's another step forward.
Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah, I haven't seen that.
Yeah. All right, Kami, thank you so much.
Oh, this is a good conversation. May it ripple out into the world and may it find its way to the next generation of young women ready to step into their body and all of who they are without shame, with love and honor and care for all of who they are.
Yes. Oh, Kami, you have your handcrafted healing herbal oils course coming up in early November, open enrollment, and you always offer the best freebies. So please tell us about what's on offer.
Oh, yes. And this course is also very much part of my life's work of really bringing these medicines into our everyday lives in ways that and really about so that they're made in the best ways. Oh my gosh, there are so many tutorials on making oils now that are just like half baked. But the free workshops we're going to it goes so well with what we've been talking about. We're going to be doing stress melting oils and gift worthy body butter workshop, and those are free, really great standalone workshops that you can get into for free. And it's really about creating the highest quality body care product so you can feel good in your body. That we're going to work on a body butter that deeply moisturizes, supports the skin, itches, scrapes, and really helps to temper. Autumn is a time of transition, and summer's heat has accumulated, and then the autumn dryness comes in, and those two things together, it elevates vata and it provokes vata, provokes the air element in our body. And so there's more itchiness, scrapiness, skin stuff, irritability, sleep issues. And so none of those things are separate. They are all related to this season. And so your oiling, your body butter is just the best remedy for this particular season to set yourself up for a healthy winter. And also, it's just the best gift. Like, why not make a gift? It's part of why I'm doing this is just to inspire you to get started right now, making a holiday gift that people will actually use and want more of. Yeah, we'll be talking about which oils to use in the stress melting oils workshop and how to use them. And so, yeah, I'm really excited about that. And then we have open enrollment for handcrafted healing herbal oils. So the free workshops are from November 11th through like the 12th. And then enrollment closes for handcrafted healing herbal oils on November 15th.
Wait, aren't the workshops earlier than those dates?
The workshops are November 2nd.
Yeah, okay.
Through 12th, November 2nd through 12th. And then the free workshops go away, and then we spend the next few days just getting everybody enrolled. And enrollment closes on Saturday, November 15th.
Okay. It also, reading about the body butter workshop, it's like what you were talking about with getting girls near or at their menarche, crafting body care for themselves, using their hands to make something that's going to bring them that comfort and that embodiment that's so helpful at that juncture.
What's amazing is this course now, many people are using it for homeschool and just for their kids, and creating those kids craft circles that can evolve into a menstrual circle eventually, maybe. And so this is definitely the body butter. It's a hit. So many people are using the full course, handcrafted healing herbal oils as homeschool curriculum to do just that, to get those crafts going, to get those oils going, the salve, the butters, the body butters, the lip gloss, all of those things. And because they teach self-care, they teach embodiment.
That's so cool. At my 9-year-old's nature school, they have a plant medicine course.
So good.
Isn't that amazing? Once a week,
Yes.
they do a couple hours making a plant medicine. I'm like, okay, that would not have happened 10, 20 years ago.
Yeah. Oh, you are blessed. We are all blessed. That's one of the reasons why I committed to teaching. I mean, it was my life's calling, but I was like, I want this to be reflected for future generations, even for my children, not just coming from me. I want it reflected in the culture. It'd be just commonplace.
Yep, I remember you said that in one of our first calls because, as you mentioned earlier, my oldest and your son are about the same age, a couple years
Mhm.
apart. They're young adults now, and we were talking about how as teenagers they don't want to listen to mom. So I think about this all the time. You said that you have always been doing your work to change the culture so that that culture then can reflect it back to your child who doesn't want to hear it from you.
May it be so. May
And
it be so.
also, let's talk about we're going to be giving away 3 copies of your book on Patreon.
Hey, yeah. My book, 105 Ways to Celebrate Menstruation. We're going to be giving away 3 copies of those. And yeah, you'll love this little book.
Thank you. Thank you so much for being willing and signed copies, right?
Oh, okay. Yes. Remind me.
Sure will. Famed author and herbalist Kami McBride's autograph in your mailbox.
Yeah, it's a really great book for all menstruating women and women with teenage daughters. That's really, I mean, it's for any woman, but it's really good if you've got a daughter coming in and want to look at ways you can celebrate and honor your body during the menstrual cycle.
Perfect. All right. Thank you so much, Kami.
Yeah, and I just want to say one more thing. I created a new bonus for this year's course that I'm giving to people that register by November 15th. And so if you get into class by the closing date, November 15th, I have a new publication that's called Body Care Sanctuary Blends. Goes perfect with the topic we've been talking about. But it's called Body Care Sanctuary Blends, and it's 30 years of proprietary blends. And they are the exact blends that I've perfected literally over 3 decades. And I've never released them before, but they're so powerful. I want to get them out into the world, and they're proven formulas, for your salves, oils, body butter, slathers, all that. So yeah, that's an extra gift that I have happening.
Amazing. And I mean, we've been talking about handcrafted healing herbal oils for years and years on this podcast. You taught me how to make herbal body oils. And so we didn't get into too many of the details of the course here, but of course, I'll have a link below and you can listen to any of our previous interviews probably as well. But I love this new bonus. That's really exciting when I saw that because people, especially if they're new, want to know which herb to blend with which when there's infinite possibilities. So knowing that these were created is you've shared the story many times that you got into making herbal body oils when you were a massage therapist and you had a bar where you had each individual oil set up and your clients would come in and you would let them combine
Yeah.
oils. And that's how you learned like which blends really work and really speak to people.
Yeah, it was definitely an embodied process.
Mm-hmm. Okay. Thank you so much, Kami.
Thank you, Amber. Thank you for all you do. Thank you for the beautiful medicines you put into this world and the inspiration. I hear every week. There's somebody's in my inbox telling me how they are inspired by you.
Oh, that's so sweet. Well, it's literally because I happened to see a flyer for your herbal oil making workshop at the Sacramento Natural Foods Co-op in 2005. I signed up. Okay, head over to the Medicine Stories Patreon if you would like to enter the giveaway, which you can do for free, although I think you have to make a Patreon account to comment. Please, please tell us what you got out of this conversation and share your stories in that comment section. And that will enter you to win a signed copy of her book. That will end on November 24th. And then also there at Patreon is my list of favorite period-related books and the online puberty course that my 9-year-old daughter and I really loved. The link to Kami's online oil making class is below. And then if you're listening to this in the first week or two of November, her free offerings will be linked to below as well. DIY body butter for gifting, and the webinar, Top 3 Stress Melting Herbal Oils, as well as more information about handcrafted healing herbal oils, which is my favorite online course to share with you all. And yes, I am an affiliate, longtime proud affiliate for a course that completely changed the trajectory of my life 20 years ago. And then, the Costa Rica retreat, Healing Waters Nature Immersion Retreat. It is November 3rd through 8th. Of course, the link as well is below. 2026, so not like today if you're listening to this the day it releases, I think. In the lush heart of Costa Rica's Rincon de la Vieja National Park. So there's natural hot springs in the ground, naturally heated hot springs there, which is why I chose this itinerary of the various ones in Costa Rica that Trova Trip offered me after my audience voted for Costa Rica. I was like, hot springs, we're there. We're there. Thank you. And a waterfall. We also get to swim in a waterfall. One of the days, our last day, this is 5 nights, 3rd through 8th, is a free day, and I'm going to go back to the hot springs on that day. So I hope you want to come back to the hot springs with me on our free day. The cost is $25.99, and that does not include flight. You need to get yourself there and back. Includes double occupancy in 4-star hotels. There were limited single rooms available. I'm not sure if they're still available. It does still say that on the website I'm seeing as of this recording. So there might still be a single room available if you'd rather do that. And we're going to do a mineral garden spa treatment, go to the hot springs, ride horses to the waterfall. I haven't ridden a horse in almost 30 years. Nope, more than 30 years, 36 years. I was 8, but no experience needed for that. And then we're going to walk the volcano and, hike to the volcano area and go through the national forest there, which looks so beautiful. I love that this entire experience, this whole retreat takes place at one really nice hotel that's all within this national park. So, and my friend Susie will be coming. You probably know and love Susie as well. If you've listened to previous episodes of Medicine Stories, she was on the most recent one, looking at the traditional Chinese medicine 7-year framework for women's life transitions and whether or not perimenopause actually exists. That was great. So Susie will be there. And we've got some wonderful women signed up so far. Most of them I don't know. Most of the names I've never seen before, but I've been messaging with them. And I can't wait for us all to get together again. We had a great time in 2023 when Susie and I also hosted a Costa Rica getaway through Trova Trip. It was a different place, a different itinerary, but it was just wonderful bringing women together. I really think that the listeners of Medicine Stories are some of the kindest and most thoughtful and down-to-earth, grounded women that I've met. And I'm so grateful for that. And I can't wait to meet more of you. So you only have to pay 25% now. The rest of the payment is due 91 days before the trip, which is August. So that's a while away. You can get partially refunded up until then. And there are payment plans as well. I think it's 6, 12, and 18-month payment plans. So all the questions are answered here on the website that will be linked to. I also have a highlight on the Mythic Medicine Instagram and a post pinned to the top of Instagram there. I will link to my Instagram below as well. And so you can read more and have all your questions answered. And if you don't have all your questions answered, then go ahead and message me, probably on Instagram if you're there, and I can help get them answered for you. And stay tuned for the launch of our new website, new labels, new photos, new bundles being offered for 5 different life transitions that women experience. I can't wait. And it'll be this month. Finally, November 2025. This has been an endless process, and I can't wait to have it out in the world and share it with you. And thank you so very much for listening. Hopefully I see you in the Patreon comments, because I want to know your stories and your family stories, your lineage stories around menarche and embodied womanhood or disembodied womanhood, and everything else there is to say about this very vast topic. I loved how Kami talked about how if you have a women's circle where women share their first blood stories, then the stories just keep going and going for the next circle and the next circle and the next circle. It's like an unending unlayering, unpeeling of the layers through shared medicine stories. So, I love it.